This was a rural Wisconsin town. 5 people just don't disappear. And there was wild rumors, drug dealers, satanic worship, axe murderer.
This case separated the citizens of Polk County from their belief that they lived in a sleepy and relatively safe part of the world.
It was a crime that shocked that quiet community, a quiet street.
Strangulation.
Investigators won't tell us many details.
In the summer of '91, I was a crime reporter for KSTP, the ABC station in Minneapolis. It was fairly unusual for us to go to Wisconsin for stories, so it had to be a significant story for us to go. Bruce Brenizer, 15 years old, says, "My family is missing." They went to Minneapolis for a shopping trip and didn't come back. The town of Cushing, they were shocked. 5 people don't just disappear with no rhyme or reason, leaving a 15-year-old boy behind.
The investigators tracked the father's movement through the preceding days. He had done several jobs for several people, none of whom said that anything seemed to be amiss.
This was a heavily wooded area. I remember the trailers being separated by a great distance.
The driveway was rather long and the trailer could barely be seen from the road. Going through the contents of that trailer was something of a quagmire. Ultimately, there was nothing located which gave the investigators any specific direction. A fellow that had been trout fishing up in Sterling Township was on his way back from the trout stream, and he came across a burned out vehicle. The information about what sort of vehicle the Brenizers would be driving had been broadly disseminated. It was an older station wagon, so of course that hit the radar right there.
When they found the car, there were bone fragments, hundreds and hundreds of them.
The rumor mill went wild.
You had this burned out station wagon, a family missing, and now all of a sudden this is a story that deserves more than just Wisconsin coverage. It deserves Twin City coverage and national coverage.
The car was profoundly burned out. In the back end of the station wagon, there was a large sheet of corrugated metal.
The car was so badly incinerated, there was virtually nothing left. They had to call in forensic experts to try and piece this together.
Now, the forensic teams found in the vehicle under that sheet of corrugated metal were essentially bone and tooth fragments. The forensic teams were able to match several of the teeth to the Brenizer adults. The ultimate cause of death could not be determined forensically because all of the bones were in quite an incinerated state.
There was wild speculation. What do the small fragments of bodies suggest? Does it suggest an axe murderer? Does it suggest satanic worship? I do remember the rumor that somehow the family must have gotten involved in something horrible for drug dealers from Minneapolis to want them off the face of the planet this way. This is rural Wisconsin, Cushing, a small town. There was a great deal of sympathy for this 15-year-old boy. He's not even an adult, and his family disappeared. What must he be going through?
A lawyer contacted us and said, look, I have a client who may know something.
So I remember camping out outside the sheriff's department trying to get a shot of the most notorious killer in all of Wisconsin.
A lawyer contacted us and said, look, I have a client who may know something.
The information comes primarily from Jesse Anderson.
Jesse told us that he received a call from Bruce saying, I've done it. Jesse drove from St. Croix Falls out to the Brenizer property in Sterling Township. And once there, Bruce showed him the bodies, explained to him where things had happened.
He tied up Nighty and Mindy with baling twine.
While waiting for the others to get home, Brenizer overheard the two little girls talking about escaping, so he fired the rifle into each of their heads.
Next, he's said to have waited by an open bedroom window for his dad and his dad's girlfriend to come home. When Rick Brenizer did arrive, he was shot through the window. Ruth Berenson rushed into the trailer to call the sheriff, but Bruce ordered her outside, then shot her in the back of the head. And the killings ended with 5-year-old Crystal.
Jesse Anderson then helped Bruce load the bodies into that station wagon and dispose of the vehicle. Jesse pointed out a pond and said that the weapon would be found there. One of the investigators waded into that pond and found the rifle.
The community was absolutely horrified. There were all kinds of emotions. It went from sympathy to outrage and sadness. Suddenly, this young man, a 15-year-old victim, becomes the main suspect. The media in this small community in Wisconsin was freaking out. I mean, this was a horrific crime. What motive would he have to not only murder his family, but then incinerate them so that police were lucky to even identify a single victim? At that time, we're saying to ourselves, you must be crazy to do something like this. Maybe the kid is mentally insane. During the trial, the defense was saying that he was being abused by his dad. And at the time, I remember reporters saying, why didn't he just run away? I mean, if he was being abused, he's 15, just run away. But killing your whole family? We couldn't understand it. That's more than 2 decades ago. Bruce now gotta be close to 50. I can't even imagine, what it could have been like for him as a 15-year-old boy. For a young man to do something that violent and that crazy, he had to have seen no other way out.